So you think you're a light worker. If you're not inspiring hope, you're not a light worker. You might be doing something else, and that's okay. Don't run away. Let's talk about that a little bit. There are many ways to accomplish the things that you are put here to accomplish, your purpose, your personal inspirations. A light worker, though, is somebody who orients their work towards illumination and coherence. And I want to deepen that for just a second. Illumination, even that word means light. So when you think of illumination, I want you to think of awareness, healing, sparking life, uplifting people. This is supporting emotional regulation, stabilizing nervous systems, reconnecting people to their authentic selves. And that is coherence. Coherence is the organizing of the mind and the body and the spirit into harmony. So when you see a right-hand path worker, when you see a light worker, these are the people who are all about harmony, peace on earth, love for everybody, and the light. This does not mean that we do not honor the death cycles, because that is the fullness of life. That's the feminine nature, is the blooming and the dying away. And yet we're oriented in our work towards supporting and sustaining and growing life. This is what it means to be a light worker. A light worker has two jobs: to inspire others and to bring hope. So you can be a metaphysical worker, but you don't have to be a light worker specifically unless you are here to inspire others and bring hope. Unless you are that peace on earth person. You can bring truth and not be a light worker. You can live in integrity and not be a light worker. A light worker has a very specific role: inspiration, hope. You've heard us talk in the past, and lots of people talk about this, about what the highest vibration is, right? And I want to break that down because I feel like that's layered. There's layers to that. Think of your chakra system. This is how I personally view vibrational hierarchies, but I don't want it to look like a hierarchy as if one's better than the other. Just like your crown chakra is not better than your root chakra just because your root is lower. In fact, arguably, the root might be the most important of your chakras because it creates the steady, stable foundation within which all of the other ones are built upon. So the foundation has to be very integritous. When you think of your root space, I want you to think of integrity. I want you to think of your foundation, where you came from. Your root is the frequency of lineage, of family, of integrity, of structure. And when we think of integrity, we often think of like doing things well or trying to do things right, whatever that looks like. But the reality is that integrity is how you build your structure. There's a lot of different elements to integrity. If you have a foundation that is not integritous, that means it will probably crack or your building may crumble. If you have an integritous foundation, an integritous building, that means it's built well and intentionally. It's a plan, right? It's a good, steady, stable structure. So this is more about your stability when you grow. Knowing that what you build, you have the capacity to continue to hold. Your integrity is the vibration of your root space. If you think of your sacral space, climbing up that ladder a little bit, this is going to be the frequency of creativity. This is your creative power, your creations, your passions. The word discovery is coming in around this. And this is a good vibration. This is not better or worse than integrity. It's just a completely different vibration. When you move up to that solar plexus space, this is going to be your frequency of authenticity. When we're in the solar plexus, this is about elevating a little bit, we want to spark transformation in others, that's the frequency we go to. Your authenticity, especially about a month ago, that was the place that was really shining big. People really were needing to get into that solar plexus space, into their authentic space, into their own authentic identity and voice and your own quirks and who you are as a person, because that's where you find your gifts. And this is the space that sparks you into your transformation. The heart space is where everything changes. That's your transformational space. It's the space that kind of separates your lower chakras from your upper chakras. So it separates the integrity and the creation and the identity from the ones above it. So this solar plexus space is the spark of transformation. And once that spark happens, everything begins to snowball. When you're in the heart space, this is the frequency of connection. I love to call it the frequency of love, but I dare say that a lot of people don't understand the kind of love that I'm talking about when I say love. This is 1000% that fourth dimensional Christ consciousness frequency, unconditional love, but it means connection. When the heart space is open and expansive, you are connected. You're connected to people, you're connected to animals, you're connected to plants. This is the connection to all living things, the connection to all frequencies. That heart space is what allows you to be in communication with everything else. So this is the space of healers. When you decide to become a healer, you have to heal from the heart space. You have to be connected and expansive and open and compassionate. And this is where that flows from the heart out into those hands. And this is the frequency of connection. When you get into the throat space, this is the frequency of truth, right? This is where we advocate. This is where we teach. This is where we speak up and speak out. This is your alignment with your free will in a higher way. So when we think of your solar plexus, that's your authenticity and your identity, right? Your throat is where you take that authenticity and your identity and you align it with your purpose, with some sort of purpose. Okay, knowing who I am and what I've been through and what I do, I'm going to advocate for people like this. I'm going to teach these things. I'm going to talk about these things. This is where the transformations happened between the solar plexus and the throat. That heart has transformed and elevated the identity, the authenticity into what we teach, into our advocation, into our personal truth, into collective truth, into spiritual truth, into the truth of love. So the throat is the frequency of truth. When you move into the throat space, this is the frequency of awareness. This is where we're seeing clearly. You cannot, I will say this 1,000 times, you cannot see clearly if you are seeing something through the lens of emotion. You cannot see clearly if you are seeing something through the lens of emotion. And this is where the third eye comes in. And yet you cannot act appropriately until you filter it through the lens of emotion. You cannot act appropriately until you filter it through the lens of emotion. Now we're looking at two frequencies. Now we're looking at the third eye and the sacral. The third eye can see something clearly without the emotion and process that, be aware of it, understand it. The sacral, being the space of emotion, also happens to be the fire space. It's the space of action. Because I can see something clearly and understand all sides, and yet no action will take place unless I decide, what do I feel about this situation? Where am I in alignment with this particular situation? What is my truth about this situation? And then going through all of these filters, we take a proper action. But the third eye is simply the space of awareness, where we can clearly see what is happening without being pulled by the need to take action, without being pulled by emotion, without being pulled by other people's truths. And we just get to understand the reality of something. And awareness pulls us in all areas, such as having a fearless inventory of ourselves. When we're in awareness, we can take a clear inventory of our past, or a clear inventory of where we're going in the future, a clear inventory of where we are now. And I know 80% of you guys out there are like, oh, I've been working on my third eye. I'm trying to open up my third eye. Honey, your third eye is not just about having visions, okay? Because I guarantee you, you probably don't see very many things very clearly without emotion involved in it, or without it being tainted by things you've been through in your past, or what you think it means about you as a person. That third eye space will not be open until you can clear all that crap out and say, you know what, I can see this situation and how it has nothing to do with me, my emotions, how I feel, what I think, or what my truth is. I can just clearly see what's happening. And then you can apply all the other things when it's time to take action. But the third eye, that's simply just where we see clearly, where we understand, where we take inventory, where we have awareness of ourselves, of the world, of situations, of other people. It's an awareness space, the frequency of awareness. And then we get to the top, and this is the frequency of knowledge and wisdom. But I like the word knowledge because wisdom is a more embodied word, meaning that you've taken the knowledge and you've experienced it and lived it. When you're in the crown, that's not necessarily true. You can tap into the wisdom from all of time and space, because you're picking up wisdom from other people, things that other souls have embodied and lived through. But that doesn't mean you've embodied and lived through it, which is why it's the space of knowledge. So you can see when we go through all of these things that none of these frequencies are higher or better than any of the others. Knowledge is not higher than awareness, even though it sits on a higher rung in the chakra space. Truth is not higher than love, even though it sits in a higher space in the body. It's just what you have to move through. It's just how we're built. It's just where we are. The right arm is not more important than the left foot. We need all of these things to create life. And here's what I'm going to say for now. While the collective is working on truth, so right now, to the collective, truth is probably one of the highest frequencies, just in awareness, in perception, because that's what the collective is working on right now. But I woke up getting this message for now that what if we stepped outside of our chakra body when we think about the highest frequencies? What if we thought about what is trying to be created when we think of the highest frequency, rather than something that we inherently are? Because we inherently are all of these frequencies, and we just tap into them at different times. We all have to live in integrity and build our root up. We all live from time to time in creation. We cycle through moments of creation. I'm creating right now as I'm speaking. And yet we take on roles, we focus on certain things that are important to us. I mentioned healers. Healers, the most important frequency for them will probably be the frequency of love and connection, because they're working as healers. People who teach, the highest frequency for them, or the one that they want to focus on the most, might be the throat space, that frequency of truth, because they're teachers. That's their job, that's their role. Students or professors, The highest frequency for them might be the crown, might be knowledge. And we all cycle through all of these because we're all of those things. And today, in my dream, I heard Spirit saying over and over and over again, for a light worker, the highest frequency is hope. And hope is not something that lives in one of our chakras. Hope is a spark. It's an inspiration. It's something that light workers specifically are meant to inspire. A light worker's only 2 jobs are to inspire others and bring hope. A light worker does not mean that you're sitting in the light all the time like, love and light, that's who I am. I'm just in love and light, and that over there is dark. I'm not going there. That's not a light worker. I don't know what you are. Probably delusional, like in a bad way, not delusional in a good way like me. A light worker is someone who sees people in the dark looking for that light. And they say, I'm going to go meet you where you're at. And the light worker goes and sits with them in the dark and shines this little light bubble around them and gives them that little spark of hope. And once they have that little spark of hope, it's all uphill from there, baby. Now they have their own lantern. They have their own guidance. Who is this? Okay, 2 archetypes are coming to mind. The Hermit from the Tarot and the Wise Man. Just the archetype of your inner masculine self, the Wise Man. The Hermit in Tarot often carries a lantern. So he's by himself, right? He's in his introspective space, but he's carrying this lantern, which is guidance. It's a spark. It's hope. It's inspiration. He knows he can go somewhere now. So if you've sparked something in somebody else who's going through a hard time or a difficult time, now they have that lamp to make their own way to the light. And I want to clarify something else. You did not give that light to them. You did not take light out of yourself, you beautiful little candle you, and give it to them. What you did was you found something in them that's been creating friction, that's just been longing to get started, and you blew on it a little bit, right? We're making a fire now, right? So there's that friction, and you're blowing on a little bit, and you're helping them place fodder on it. Okay, well, let's do this. And suddenly there's that little spark, and the fire's getting started. The fire's about to burn. That's what a light worker does. I do not give my inspiration to other people because it's mine. But I hope that I can touch certain frequencies inside of you that inspire you. If I can inspire you through dance, through song, through story, maybe I'm working on your creativity or your joy or your passion. Maybe I'm working on your sacral and your solar places right this second. If I can give you clear truth and hope about something, maybe I'm working on your heart frequencies or your throat frequencies. And when I can put fodder in certain areas that I know you're working on, that spark can glow, and it can glow big, and it can guide you where you want to be. And once you have that hope, that inspiration, and you can guide yourself where you want to be, this is something that in Druidry we call Awen. Awen is it's spelled like amen, but with the W, A-W-E-N, and it can be pronounced Awen, but it's Awen. Awen. It's that Druidic word that means divine inspiration. It means it's this sacred flowing breath. It is a breath that moves through all of us, that brings creativity and insight, vitality, spiritual connection. It's the living current. It's a spirit. It's the living current that moves through light workers, that moves through poets and healers and seers, and it guides expression and truth rather than being forced through effort. It guides, it inspires, it moves like a breath, it breathes, it's a living thing. It can be experienced as a flow state, as illumination, as inner alignment. Awen connects personal creativity with the bigger picture, with something greater, with spirit, and it supports meaningful creation and joyful, energized movement through life. Awen. This is the inspiration. This is the spark. This is what Lightworkers help other people with. And I like to use Awen in the place of Amen, especially during prayers or invocations, because Amen means it is true, or so be it, or let it be fulfilled, which is great. It's an affirmation. It's putting that cap on, like, so it is, so it's already been done. And I love that saying. And yet, when I say Awen at the end of an invocation or a prayer, what I'm saying is, may inspiration flow through this. I'm saying, may this be aligned with truth and spirit. Let this be carried by the sacred current. I'm saying, put this in flow. I give it all to God, is what this is saying. Put it in flow here. This is often chanted 3 times when we're doing an invocation. And I'm just letting you guys know that, because if this is something you want to add to your own personal practice, you can. So when you're stating your affirmations or thinking of things that you want or stating your prayers, instead of just saying, okay, may it be so, may it be true, you can breathe life into it. You can inspire it. This is why the Lightworker is focused on life, creating the energy, creating the fire, creating the spark. However it is that you need that hope, I'm focused on helping you find it. That's what a Lightworker does. Now, that's not to say, because again, there's no hierarchy. That's not to say that Lightworkers are higher on the scale than any of the other workers, because there's a balance. While a Lightworker is focused on the right-hand path, or the light and life, the left-hand path workers might be focused on the self, personal power, inner magic. And people who are integrated, living both right-hand and left-hand energy, light and dark mixed together, these people find truth in both of these spaces. And all of these people are needed. You need your light workers, you need your chaos magicians, and you need your shamans in the middle. And you can change your mind at any time depending on your personal timeline. I, for a long time, have lived a very integrated path before being called into the inspirational spaces of the Lightworker role. And I've been here for a while now, doing what I need to do to try to bring you hope and inspiration, focusing on life and growing life. This is my job here. And hopefully your job if you're still around listening to this. A dear friend sent me this book. It's called The Pivot Year by Brianna Wiest, W-I-E-S-T. It's 365 days to become the person you truly want to be. Thank you, Dustin. I super appreciate this book. And it's basically a year's worth of daily meditations, but not meditations in, okay, take a breath and now chant this 3 times. It's just this little blurb each day about something to focus on. And I'm only on day 5, but each day that I have chosen to open this book and meditate on one of the things that it's saying, and by meditate, I don't mean I sat for 5 minutes in silence just thinking of these words. It means I read it, I allowed myself to integrate it by saying, okay, I'm going to see how this comes about for me today. And then those things would come about, and I was able to approach them from a space that was remembering the words in this book. And when this inspiration came to me to talk about this particular subject, I was on day 5. And I want to read day 5 to you, especially since we're talking about how There's no hierarchies, right, left, root, crown. No frequency is higher or better than another one. It's simply about where you personally need to focus in your life for the space that you're in at that given moment or for your role. There are two rivers running through us at all times. One that carries all the voices of the world, and the other, a single voice that stands alone, the voice of our inner guide. The first river is so strong, steady, and constant with its instruction, guidance, and forewarning. Most of us live mindlessly, being pulled to each milestone, each thing we were told to reach for, to move toward, to achieve. Eventually, we look down and realize our hands are empty. Our lives were woven together by a storyline we didn't write. As we lose sight of our inner compass, a fog is cast over our awareness of the moment. We become saddled with confusion, indecision, and uncertainty. We become incapable of leading ourselves because the two rivers are shouting over one another, tempting us with virtues and repelling us with vices. Over time, we become consumed by the stiffness of trying to be what we're told, existing in contrast to the soft, effervescent truth living deep inside. Despite how loud that first river can become, we can always hear the quiet call of the second. Our lives begin the day we choose to follow our inner knowing, even while hearing and at times heeding the collective knowledge of the first. The first realization of wisdom is the recognition that there is truth fragmented everywhere. And to delineate the two rivers into wholly good and wholly bad is to deprive ourselves of the depth and beauty that our hearts are truly trying to bring about. The journey is not about abandoning one in favor of the other, but knowing when it is time to listen, to hear, and to follow each. And I loved this because that's exactly what I'm saying here. It's while a light worker's focus may be the right-hand path, inspiration, bringing hope to others, life, harmony, peace on earth. If you're a light worker, that might be your focus. That doesn't mean it's the highest frequency. None of these are the highest frequencies, and light workers are on a higher frequency than those who work in the chaos realms. We are all doing our part. We all have a role. We all have something to contribute, and all of these things live in all of us. We can't even truly separate ourselves fully from them. It's just a matter of where we focus and what action we take on it. Because we all have all of these frequencies. We all have that frequency of integrity, of creation, of inspiration, of love, of truth, of awareness, of knowledge. We all have those. We all have the capacity to move through chaos or to live fully integrated or know the light. We all have that capability. It's simply a matter of where we focus. And this particular text also brought up the self versus the world concept. When we step into healing, quite often what we're healing from is all of the things that we were told we were supposed to be, how we were supposed to be, how we were supposed to act, who we were supposed to be. We're healing from the voice of the collective, whether that be our parents or caregivers, our friends, our peers, or just the world in general. And once you do that, you're not completely neglecting outside voices and only coming to your internal voice, the one river that's your internal guidance. You're coming there, you're spending time there, you're learning yourself, you're learning your voice, you're learning your inner guidance. And then you're able to move through both rivers as needed. You can listen to the collective cries, what the collective needs, what the collective thinks, knowing your own inner truth, because that's your stabilizer. knowing who you are, yourself, how you feel, your truth. That's your inner guidance. That's your lamp. That's your hope. That's your inspiration. And you can move through the collective rivers in a beautiful, integrated, balanced, beautiful, stable, integratous way. I'm Mary Colozzo. Welcome home.